Yeah, turn down that, cut off Texas there right when they're getting started. For those of you who don't remember, we're playing, part of our deal is we play all the fight songs of all the speakers that we have coming in here. It's tough to stomach because we got Colt McCoy coming in. Got Texas. We got you, SMU, and others, but that's what we do here at the Little Rock Touchdown Club. So glad to have everybody here today. We're going to go ahead and get started a little bit early. Great to have Eric Dickerson, one of the greatest running backs in the history of the NFL. I was looking, I'm sure Eric knows this, so as I've told you, there's no other touchdown club in America that has, after Sam Pittman, our three speakers are Brett Favre, Ray Lewis, and Eric Dickerson. Eric, all of you were on the all 100-year team. So that means there's only a few running backs. Let me just list a few that are with Eric Dickerson. Jim Brown, Earl Campbell, Dutch Clark. Rex, you remember old Dutch. Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, Gale Sayers, O.J. Simpson, and Emmitt Smith. This guy's right there with the greatest of all time. How about that? Wow. So honored to have him. He's got the longest flight of anybody we brought in, all the way from L.A. Even though he's from Sealy, Texas, he's an L.A. guy now. He's been an L.A. guy ever since he left. So we're going to have a great time with him. A lot of special things happening. So glad you're here today. I know for Razorback fans, even Eric was saying, 648 yards in total offense and you lose the game? Yeah. Even Eric noticed that. So next week, Hunter Yurachek. Hunter's smart enough to start before the conference season starts. He's smart enough to get here before. Although, I think we can beat Auburn. Yeah, I think we can beat Texas A&M. I saw a lot of promise. Great to have you here in what is our 20th season. Eric, we're the fastest growing touchdown club in America. Nobody's doing the things we're doing, and so glad everybody's here. If you hadn't joined, please join us. It's really inexpensive. We just want you here to be a part of this. We want when our speakers come. Ray Lewis last week, did you enjoy Ray Lewis? My goodness, was he not outstanding? And Ray Lewis felt the energy in the room, and that's what I hope Eric feels today, is that when our speakers come, they feel the appreciation and the respect we have for the legacy that these great players have left. At this time, we want to bring up Pigskin Preacher, Chuck Monan. I do want to make mention, so we lost one of our faithful members this past week. Reggie Heyman, who with his dad, Harry Heyman, always sit at the back. So Eric, what you'll see is we'll do photos up here with you about 15, 20 minutes afterwards. And then because of some physical challenges, Reggie and his dad, Harry, would always be in the back, and they would always get pictures. Well, apparently Reggie had an accident and passed away this past week. His funeral, I guess, is coming up. And, he was a fixture back there in the back. You probably saw him anyway of probably 10 to 15 years. So say a little prayer for his family and appreciate his loyalty to the Touchdown Club and pray for his dad. That's got to be tough. But at this time, Pigskin, will you come up and lead us in a word of prayer?
Let's pray together. Father, we're thankful for the restful night of sleep. We're grateful for the beautiful day of weather, for the delicious food before us, for friends and family, and for the good times we have at the Touchdown Club. Father, as David has mentioned, our hearts go out to the Heyman family and their loss. We pray that you give them peace and comfort during this difficult time. Father, we're thankful that Eric could be here. We're grateful for all the enjoyment that he's given us football fans over the years. Pray your blessings to be with him and his family. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Everybody that we bring in, Eric, everybody has their own personality. Brett Favre did. Ray Lewis does. And had a chance last night to have dinner with Eric with a bunch of guys, so I'll mention a little bit later. But let me tell you what, he calls it how he sees it. He doesn't hold any punches, and you got to respect that about Eric Dickerson. So I think you're really going to enjoy him today. All right, we're giving away, where is it? Do we have it? The Eric Dickerson signed poster. Nobody ran like him in the history of the NFL. Nobody looked like him with his outfits and his look and his helmet and his glasses and his neck roll. So the winner of that is 973-170. 973-170. There we go, right there. Look at that, Kevin Brooks over there. Congratulations, Kevin. Do want to thank our fine sponsors, Simmons Bank, starting with them. Could not do it without the amazing help of Simmons Bank. I was just telling Eric about the story, and he's ready to do business. He's already, Chris, let's sign him up. Let's sign him up. They've got a big golf tournament coming up at Pleasant Valley here soon. It's the Simmons Bank Championship, October 21st through the 27th, presented by Stevens. Be a part of that. They're investing in our community. Nobody does it like Simmons Bank. Nobody has a presenting sponsor like them. Let's give them a round of applause right off the bat. Do want to thank Stevens for being a sponsor. So great to have Warren Simpson and Curtis Jeffries here today, and for Stevens to step up and be our sponsor. You know, the Morning Mayhem Show did a live 4-hour show at the Arkansas Museum of Fine Arts this week. It's still open. It's still okay. An amazing Formula One replica is there. It's there from now until September 22nd. Go check it out. It's very unique. I don't know if you know that Stevens sponsors an F1 team, the Williams team in Europe, Williams Racing, and it is really a spectacular deal. And also, too, the Arts Center, Rex, my goodness, I've not been over there since the $175 million improvement because of the efforts of Warren Stevens and Harriet Stevens. So go over there and check that out. Take your kids. It's the only time you'll ever see, one of the few times in America that an F1 car has been in a museum. But it's a piece of art. It's really, really cool. So go by and check that out all the way to September 22nd. Thanks to Stevens for their sponsorship. As you know, sometimes throughout the year, our sponsors will have the ability to play a commercial. Next up is Oaklawn. Great to have Wayne Smith, the GM of Oaklawn, and Chris O and Zach Gillum here. So where's Roger Scott? Is Roger Scott here? Oh, how about that? He's not here. Too good to be here because the first commercial is going to be shown. Well, this is, Eric, I'm not an actor, but the guy in this commercial is an actor. So this is the first commercial that aired. We aired 2 this weekend for the Oaklawn Sports app. Me and Roger Scott promoting Oaklawn. Let's take a look. Hey, Raj, what you doing here?
Well, it's football season. Thought I'd go ahead and dust off a few plays I've been thinking of.
It looks like you have 13 players here.
Well, that is innovation.
Most innovators can count to 11.
Well, that is a winning play. Just like the Oaklawn Sports app, I can bet anywhere in Arkansas right from my phone. Spreads, totals, player props, same-game parlays, and the most live in-game offerings all right here. Download Oaklawn Sports and bet all season long with the best sports betting app in Arkansas.
How about that? My man Roger Scott. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Oaklawn, for doing that. By the way, Eric, last night when we were having dinner, I don't know if you realize this, you were watching the Rams and the Lions. I just happened to have the Lions and -3.5, and they covered, thank goodness. So I got a winner on that. But thanks for Oaklawn. Get on that app and have some fun this year. I want to give out a shout out to Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. Charlie Coleman, where's Charlie at? Charlie here. So Charlie, so Eric, I want you to look over here. So his brother is Walt Coleman, who called a lot of games in the NFL. I called him and said, did you call any of Eric's? And he said, I did not. It was right at the transition, but he was the guy who did the tuck rule. He's the famous tuck rule. He's a famous tuck rule. His brother is. But want to give it up for Charlie. He's one of our faithful members. He's one of the top lawyers in America. He's your go-to. 40 years represented clients in reorganizing business, bankruptcy, secure transaction, creditors' right. He's done it all. Charlie, thanks for being a supporter of the Touchdown Club and your family for what they do in this state. Really appreciate them. Crane Automotive, I was looking at the numbers here. I was corrected, Rex. I said a few weeks ago that they're on track to sell 24,000 cars in 2024. No, they're up to they're tracking 34,000. Wow. 34,000. Where's Juju at? Juju Harshaw, former Razorback, he'll call the Hogs if you buy a car from him when you come in. That's guaranteed. But appreciate Crane Automotive and the largest dealer group in Arkansas, 20 dealerships. Thanks to them. We appreciate them. Chris Crane. Sissy's Log Cabin, Bill and Sherry Jones. Have you seen that commercial about the proposal where the guy jumps over the kid and gives? Yep. I love it. Thanks to Bill and Sherry Jones and Jim Inglehorn, because life is too short for ordinary jewelry. Thanks to Sissy's Log Cabin. Doublebee's, owner Steve Lytle and GM Ed Light. Family-owned convenience store, 34 locations across the state. Go by Exxon, Phillips 66 Fuel, hot delis and pizza. Grab it and go. We appreciate Doublebee's. Summerwood Sports, I see the Hendricks family here. Eric, you ought to see this facility, one of the newest and most amazing sports complex, not only in Arkansas, but around the country. It's in Bryant. If you got practices, training sessions, birthday parties, they can take care of you. Go by and check out Summerwood Sports, thanks to them. Roller Funeral Homes, Renata Jenkins Byler, appreciate her support and her amazing staff, 24 locations across the state. They'll take great care of you and your family. Advantage Service Company, Kevin Brooks, the GM, one call does it all. Residential, commercial sales, service for HVAC, plumbing, electrical needs. Thank you to Advantage Service Company. The Arkansas Democrat Gazette, we have our first All-Arkansas Preps player of the week today. From Lakeside, we'll introduce him in just a second. Of all the times to be here with a running back, this young man is really impressive. You'll hear more about him from RJ. But thanks to Wally Hall and Amanda Copley, Democrat Gazette. Hatcher Agency, Greg Hatcher, thanks so much. Twin City Limo, Popeye, the home of outrageous service. Greg does so much for the Touchdown Club behind the scenes. Thank you, Greg Hatcher. Simmons Bank Arena, I don't know if you're a big fan, Rex, but don't forget Dwight Yoakam this Friday night. Tickets available. Also just announced Trans-Siberian Orchestra. It's coming back to Simmons Bank Arena December 8th with 2 shows. Ticketmaster.com for those. Pulaski County Farm Bureau, Todd Dennis, Stephen Reichert, appreciate them. Give them a shot at your business there for insurance needs. War Memorial Stadium, thanks for all of their support. John Latch, Mark Pike, Kevin Crass, we appreciate them. The old grand lady, War Memorial. Arkansas Urology, Dr. Jonathan Henderson is here today. He's a provider of Arkansas Urology since 2020, practices in Little Rock, North Little Rock, Conway. Guys, get checked up. Don't put it all. Please get checked up. It's easy to do. Hold your nose. Go get it done. Thanks to... It is. I'm just saying. Hold your nose. Grab the table and get it done. Thanks to Chris Shinup, Director of Arkansas Urology Foundation. 103.7 The Buzz. Eric Dickerson was just on there with Justin and DJ on the zone. Appreciate them. Thanks to Roger Scott and Justin Moore for their support of the Touchdown Club. AY Media, Heather Baker, thanks so much for your passionate support of the Touchdown Club. Check out AY Magazine, Arkansas Money and Politics. Arkansas PBS, Rex, no other Touchdown Club in America has Arkansas PBS live streaming for us. Courtney Pleasure, Anita, Brian, Kevin, Tanisha, all you folks, thank you so much. MyArkansasPBS.org is where you can find them, and tell somebody if they want to watch, they can be doing that now. DoubleTree Hotel, we got the best in America. Thank you for the staff here. They do a great job setting up this room. I hear that already JF Media Marketing, Alicia Flynn is already going back and forth with Eric Dickerson. So I understand that Alicia put out a tweet that says something to the effect of, great to have Eric Dickerson back in the state of Arkansas, and you already responded by going, yeah, the last time we were here, we beat you. Is that true? Is he that quick on the social media? Okay, Alicia, all right. Listen, if you need a social media company to help you, you need to check out JF Media Marketing. We appreciate them. Can't do it with all those great sponsors. Let's give a big round of applause to them. Thank you. We got the best team in America. Debbie Wyman is our executive director. The volunteers we have, nobody does it better. Chris Kane, RJ Hawk, Dwayne Duncan, Wes Sutton. Let's give a round of applause to everybody who volunteers here every week for no money. They're just here to help everything work well. Thank you. At this time, RJ, will you come up? RJ Hawk, State Representative RJ Hawk, and let's meet our first All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week.
Thank you, David. You know, every week Rex gets up here, and I got a little jealous a couple weeks ago because he got up here and said, football is back. And so I got really excited because this is the first time I've got to do high school. So high school football is back. No, I will tell you this, that I get really, really excited about our high school football season. But we're actually in week 3 because we had a 0 week. We had the first week, second week, so coming into the third week. But our player of the week this week has had a great start to the season. He comes to us from Hot Springs Lakeside, and I'm going to give you this number. I'm going to give you numbers each and every week because it doesn't do it justice for the type of person that he is. So in week 1, they played Lake Hamilton. He had 22 carries. Eric, you're going to like this. 22 carries for 252 yards and 4 touchdowns. They beat Lake Hamilton 34-29. Last week, they played Sheridan. He had 15 carries for 133 yards and 5 touchdowns and won that game 56-27. So on the season so far, he's had 37 carries for 373 yards and 9 touchdowns. But the most impressive thing, his yards per carry right now is 10.1 on the season. His mom, Becky Oman, dad, Corey Oman, and his head coach, Darren Rockwell, are here today. Our All Arkansas Preps Player of the Week is Grady Oman from Hot Springs Lakeside. Hey, let's jump right here. Put that right there. Hold that.
Congratulations, and what a great day for him to be here with Eric Dickerson being here as well. Great to have the family and coach as well. I look forward to doing that each week with our outstanding football players across the state of Arkansas. All right, a lot to cover. Rex Nelson, please come up and give us our weekend recap. Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Nelson, everybody.
Thanks, David, and good morning, everybody. You know, it was a really interesting week in Arkansas in college football. 8 Arkansas schools all played Oklahoma schools in the same week. And Arkansas went 7-1. Unfortunately, you know what that one loss was. Oh, so close. Oklahoma State 39, Arkansas 31 in 2 overtimes. And boy, you all are right, Eric and David. Arkansas dominated the statistics. Outgained OSU 648 to 385, 33 first downs to 22 for Oklahoma State, 232 to 59 in passing, 232 to 59, or excuse me, in rushing, 232 to 59, 416 to 320 in passing. Arkansas tops 600 yards in consecutive games for the first time in the history of the program. Welcome back, Bobby Petrino. 600 yards, 2 consecutive games, and I say they do it again on Saturday against UAB in Fayetteville. Andrew Armstrong, the first Razorback with at least 10 catches in a game since Kobe Hamilton back in 2012. But key mistakes, I don't have to go over them. They're ingrained in your mind. I won't. But key mistakes at key times, and that was the first multi-overtime loss. Arkansas usually very good in overtime. First multi-overtime loss since many of us remember that 6 overtime loss to Tennessee way back in 2002. So let's move on. Arkansas State gets one of those victories over an Oklahoma school. 28-24 over Tulsa. Great game. 6 lead changes in that game. ASU now 2-0 after overcoming a 10-point halftime deficit. They didn't even need the replay officials this time around to win the game. 2-0. Overcame a 10-point halftime deficit. Jalen Rayner, who is the real deal at quarterback. If you get a chance to go to Jonesboro and watch him, do it. He was 21 of 32 passing, 255 yards and a touchdown. He was also the leading rusher with 90 yards in the football game. And I think, again, they're going to have a pretty good season. After losing to Arkansas 70-0, UAPB takes it out on poor old Arkansas Baptist, an NAIA team, 73-0. UAPB led 52-0 at halftime of that game, and so they borrowed what had been done to them the week before and shortened the last 2 quarters to 10 minutes. So completely opposite. Talk about teams that are going to have a good season. UCA. Keep an eye on the Bears, nationally ranked in FCS. 34-13 over Lindenwood. They trailed 3-0 at the end of the first quarter and then took control from then on. Led 13-3 at the half. Shunderick Powell rushed for 126 yards. Will McElvain, the quarterback, 20 of 28 passing for 333 yards. And I'm telling you, after 2 weeks of football, I think Arkansas State, and UCA are all going to have pretty decent seasons this year. I'm beginning to think that. And how about our Division II teams? As you know, there are 6 Arkansas teams, 6 Oklahoma teams in the Great American Conference. No non-conference games, 11 conference games, so it's a struggle. They started all last Thursday night. GAC teams from Arkansas went 6-0 against Oklahoma. How about that? Number 1, Harding, the defending national champion, 59-0 over Southern Nazarene. Bison scored touchdowns on 6 of 9 first-half possessions and winning their 20th consecutive game. Harding had 425 of its 607 yards of offense in the first half. They easily could have topped 800 yards of offense had they not called off the Dogs. Ouachita, also nationally ranked, 42-3 over Southwestern Oklahoma. Eli Livingston, their quarterback out of Batesville, was 8 of 10 passing, 195 yards with 3 touchdowns while rushing 9 times for 91 yards and a score. I know we got some Batesville people here today. Boy, he played well as a starter. Henderson with a new coach, still rolling. 41-3 over East Central, or 41-17 over East Central University. Frederick O'Donnell, 16 carries, 141 yards, 3 TDs. Southern Arkansas, 36-31 over Southeastern Oklahoma. Mule Riders went on a 22-point run in that game to turn a 24-14 halftime deficit into a 36-24 lead. UAM, ain't nothing more evil than that darn boll weevil, 34-7 over Northwestern Oklahoma. Boll Weevils rode to a 28-7 halftime lead and never looked back. And Arkansas Tech 44, Oklahoma Baptist 41 in overtime. Oklahoma Baptist missed its field goal on the first possession of overtime. Tech comes back and makes a 28-yard field goal and makes it 6-0 for the Arkansas schools. All right, real quickly, we're going to rush through the SEC. Great weekend for SEC quarterbacks, by the way. How about Texas, pigskin preacher, our Michigan guy down here, 31-12 in Ann Arbor, as Quinn Ewers passes for a 246 yards and 3 TDs. Texas up to number 2 in the country now. Number 1, Georgia, 48-3 over Tennessee Tech, as Carson Beck completes 18 of 25 passes for 242 yards and 5 touchdowns. Alabama struggled for 3 quarters, but then turned it on. 42-18 over South Florida. Tide explodes for 28 points in the final 10 minutes of that game. Ole Miss 52, Middle Tennessee 3. Get this, Jackson Dart completes his first 24 consecutive passes. 24 consecutive completions. That sets an SEC record. He finishes 25 of 27 for 377 yards. Missouri 38, Buffalo nothing, as Brady Cook threw for 228 yards and ran for 2 TDs. Tennessee, boy, were they impressive in the ABC primetime game on Saturday night. 51, North Carolina State 10 in Charlotte. Oklahoma 16-12. Boy, this is weird giving Oklahoma for the SEC, and it's going to take you some getting used to. Oklahoma 16-12 over Houston, even though the Cougars outgained the Sooners 318-249. LSU 44, Nicholls State 21. Garrett Nussmeier, 27 of 37 passing, 302 yards and 6 TDs. Cal goes to Auburn and beats Auburn on the Plains after the game day crew all picked Auburn. I don't think Auburn's all of that. I agree with you, David. I think Arkansas goes to Auburn in a couple of weeks and wins the game. And Vanderbilt break up the Commodores, 55-0 over Alcorn State. Commodores are 2-0. You may have seen this story. I got a kick out of it. They fire fireworks in Nashville after touchdowns. They're so used to not scoring many points. After the last touchdown, they had to put on the scoreboard, "Sorry, we are out of fireworks." True story. Not often does Vanderbilt score 55 points against anybody. Texas A&M 52, McNeese State 10, as the Aggies scored touchdowns on their first 5 possessions. Florida 45, Samford 7. That's Sanford, not Stanford. Sanford is the Gators even their record at 1-1 and give Billy Napier a 1-week reprieve. I think he's on kind of a week-to-week notice right now. Still think he's going to be one of David's speakers next year. Arizona State 30. Mississippi State 23 in the late game of the night. Only conference game. South Carolina 31, Kentucky 6. South Carolina held Kentucky to just 183 yards of offense. Rocket Sanders, by the way, the former Razorbacks, had a touchdown run for South Carolina in that game. And as they often do, it's still September, but the Kentucky fans are now saying, wow, let's just start basketball. Wait, where did Coach Cal go? Where's Coach Cal? He crawled to Arkansas. All right, so Arkansas went 10-1 overall against out-of-state competition. Division III, Line beat Grinnell. I thought that was a kind of fish, but it's a school in Iowa, 48-28. And Hendricks plays Centenary. A lot of schools adding football. Centenary has brought back football after about 100 years without it. Hendricks wins 43-20. Now this week, UAB at Arkansas, as I mentioned. Austin Peay, which is going to lose to UCA, but as I always tell you, they have one of the great yells, Eric, in college football, which is let's go Peay. Austin Peay, you can go to Conway and hear that. Austin Peay's at UCA. East Central Oklahoma's at Southern Arkansas. Southeastern Oklahoma's at Henderson. And Hendricks versus East Texas Baptist at War Memorial Stadium, if you want to see a game here in Little Rock. So games in Fayetteville, Conway, Magnolia, and Little Rock. You know what that means. Oh, and Arkadelphia. You know what that means. Get out and see a college football game this week, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Rex. All right. Great to have Eric Dickerson here. He wins the prize of the longest trip to the Touchdown Club. There's only one person that we've had here. He also wears a gold jacket as well, Eric. Who had the longest trip ever? Larry Zonka is correct. He's the only guy that beats you, Eric. I can't believe he agreed to do it, but he came all the way from Alaska. But we really appreciate the fact that Eric didn't have to agree to do this. He has been to Arkansas before, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But do want to recognize some special guests here. When I made this announcement about Eric Dickerson coming, you know who really got excited? All the SMU grads. All the SMU grads here that I know. I mean, they just became euphoric. Didn't matter that I've had Mike Ditka or Mean Joe Green or Peyton Manning. Eric, when your name was announced, they almost were like kids. It was amazing. I don't know how much money was exchanged back in the day with these particular people. We'll talk about that later, Eric. But I do want to reckon. Everybody does, right? Hunter East, Marcus Duran, Robert Anderson, Jeff Fuller, Warren Simpson are all the SMU grads. Let's give them a round of applause for being here today. We appreciate them. So Darryl got a chance to play golf with, Eric Dickerson got a chance to play golf with Darryl Walker yesterday. I had no idea that Darryl was buddies with you. There's a Roy Green connection too. And Warren, you got a chance to play as well and played at a Lotion. You got to listen. I haven't played at a Lotion. Yet. You just rolled into town. You play at the best. So Warren, scale of 1 to 10. 10 being the best, 1 being the least. How good of a golfer was he? 10. Good answer. But we had dinner last night also too. I want to thank Merritt Dyke for picking up that. Merritt is a great guy in support of the Touchdown Club. Also, it was also cool when you get to be in the room and see a guy like Eric, who's a Hall of Famer and a guy that really should have a gold jacket one of these days, that's here today, that was also here with Brett Favre was here, one of his teammates, Keith Jackson. Let's get up for Keith Jackson, everybody. So before we introduce, we do the Sully video. So Andrew Metters, you guys know A.B. Metters. So Andrew was one of the founding members of our club. Eric, when I decided I had this idea, I went to Rex. Rex came to me. We all were in the same boat. Andrew Metters was the other guy I went to. when I announced this thing, he said, I gotta be able to say a few words about Eric. So before we do the formal introduction of you with Steve Sullivan, Andrew Matters wants to come up. He was a student at SMU at the same time that Eric was there. Also worked in sports information at the same time. Let's give it up for one of our founding members, A.B. Matters.
Okay, as I promised David Basil, this will be quick, it'll be brief, it will not be boring. I was a sophomore when Eric was a senior. We're at all SMU at the same time with my buddies here from SMU today. Young people in this room and in the audience, under 50 years old, we toss around the term great all the time. You are looking at greatness right here. Take it from me, you're looking at greatness. NIL. We were 40-year visionaries at SMU. 40 years. We were like Bugsy Siegel from Los Angeles in the old days to Las Vegas. And he founded Las Vegas, but he was a bit early too. He got shot in the head. I guess we did too, kind of a probation. Bugsy was early and so was SMU. Way early, but we were right. You talk about big men on campus back then, the 80s in Dallas. Oh my gosh. We'd be at Campese's, Italian restaurant, Sunday night near campus. Eric would walk in. There he is. You know, like a god. I mean, it was just unbelievable what a presence that he was. And at one time, he walked out with 10 pizza boxes. I'm not saying you didn't pay. I just did not see you pay. How do I say that? All right. Charles Wagner, we talked about Charles last night. He was the third running back. Hog fans, we almost had to deal with three great running backs, Craig James, Eric, and Charles Wagner. 1979, the #1 recruiting class in America. Charles hurt his neck, and oh my Lord, what would have happened if he'd stayed? Eric said somebody would have transferred. Eric, those who helped you along the way. Lance McElhenney, Highland Park, Dallas, his quarterback. Lance would pitch that option. It was the worst job in America, Saturdays against SMU, to be a defensive end on the other team, on defense. They had to decide, we go left, we go right. They had to make that grueling decision every time because Lance can go, he could run. But he would pitch to Eric at that last second and get smashed. Sometimes I think the ball got forced out of Lance and just squirted over to Eric. Full head of steam. It was Backstreet Boys. Bye, 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 bye. Gone. Good luck catching him. My dad said you can put a Coke can on top of that helmet. The Coke can doesn't fall off until he stops in the end zone. But Keith Jackson pointed out he also knew to lower the shoulder too when he had to. He didn't run straight all the time. Okay, moving right along. Underrated defense that helped Eric. January 1st, 1983, the Cotton Bowl, SMU 7, Pitt 3. They held Dan Marino to 3 points in the Cotton Bowl. It was icy and rainy. I don't care if it was a sandstorm. You hold Dan Marino 3 points in the Cotton Bowl, big-time defense. Craig James, Pony Express, 1982, Heisman, Herschel Walker, John Elway, Eric Dickerson. That was a tough year to go for the Heisman. Eric shared carries, as you know, with Craig James. And preacher over here, we know that what can be viewed as a hindrance at first, and this is Eric's book, Watch My Smoke. He talked about just a tiny bit of bitterness early in his career with Craig James, but God has a way to work in great ways. Saved his body for the NFL and saved his body for the great shape that he is in today. SMU won at Austin 1980, 20-6, 1982, 30-17, beat Texas A&M 5 years in a row, including 47-7 in Texas Stadium at homecoming. I think you had almost 300 yards that day. They were tired of the little church school at that point, A&M in Texas. School was out. So as I mentioned, Watch My Smoke, the book here. In this book, Eric, your grandmother, who you love so much and helped raise you, I notice a part in here that she did not want you to go past the end of the street with the street light there in Sealy. Because the great success that you have had in this life, you go anywhere in the world that you want to. You were a big part of my youth and my life, and my friends here today at SMU that cheered you on. You brought us joy. I want to say thank you and welcome to Little Rock.
I think if you look that up in the dictionary, that is man crush right there is what that is. And that's okay. That's okay. There's nothing the matter with that. Some wonderful memories. I've always said I never made it to the NFL, Eric, but I did when we played you guys in 81 and 82. That's all I'm saying. It's all good. And I didn't ask, who do you think had the nicer car in college? Eric with his gold Trans Am, Keith Jackson. What did you have at Oklahoma? Would you like to share? A Maxima, okay. I did notice too, by the way, that Cole Plafkin, Chris gave up the inside seat. I don't know if he needed a Razorback blocker in between or not. I'm not really sure what the deal was there. All right, we're going to bring up the greatest. Let's check out Steve Sullivan's intro for Eric Dickerson.
He ran a 10.300 on the track as a high school senior. On the football field, Eric Dickerson was a freight train for Sealy High. He ran for 296 yards and 4 touchdowns in the state title game. At SMU, Eric was part of college football's most talked about tandem. He and Craig James were the Pony Express.
Pitch to Dickerson. Good block by Kovar. First down. Look at Dickerson knocking people down.
Dickerson got better every season at SMU. He gained 4,450 yards on 790 carries, breaking the great Earl Campbell's Southwest Conference records for both yards and attempts.
Out to the 30, 35 to the 40, to the 45 to the 50, down to the 35, down to the 25, down to the 10, 5, touchdown, Eric Dickerson.
He was a 4-time NFL rushing yards leader, and he was named Offensive Player of the Year 3 times. He retired over 30 years ago, but Eric Dickerson still holds the record for most rushing yards in a season with 2,105. Please welcome a one-of-a-kind talent, NFL and College Hall of Famer, Eric Dickerson.
That song?
That song, I'm going to tell you. So where's Cliff Hinder? Raise your hand, Cliff. So Cliff was a DB in 1981. He was my traveling roommate, Judy Henry's husband. And you said you had PTSD when you walked up there because you were having to try to tackle Eric and Craig James in that 1981 game. But you were the Crip Hall Award winner for that, which is saying something. You were the player of the game that game. Is right. So having said that, Eric, you know, you've been to Arkansas before.
Yes.
We'll get to the playing part of it too, but I know that I think the last time I saw you was with this guy right here. Let's look at Anita, slide number 2 here of you and of Santa Claus, the one and only John Daly.
That's my guy.
I know Jocko Dill is out here. Jocko's here today. Now, you came here to play golf at John's golf tournament in Darnell. What do you remember about that?
It was a long time ago, but I remember I'm like, wow, this is a golf course?
It's gotten better since then.
Has it gotten better?
It's gotten better since
I hope so. I mean,
it's not, I was trying to think, do you remember if he was barefoot or not?
He was barefoot. And I didn't say he was walking out there. I mean, I'm like, man, this is kind of dangerous. But I got to say, you know, John's a great guy. I mean, a great guy. He's a big, I can tell you one thing, he loves Arkansas Razorbacks. He loves the Razorbacks and he loves his Cowboys. Now, we'll disagree on that part of it, but, you know, John's a good friend and a great guy.
You know, you had a very unique style back in the 80s at SMU. Let's take a look at a couple of pics, Anita, of just the look of Eric Dickerson back in the 80s. We can hit number 3. So there's the neck roll, the glasses, the goggles, the big mouthpiece, the big shoulder pads. Let's go to the next shot. Again, you know, running backs don't look like that. You were 6'3", 220, got the towel hanging out there. Let's go to the next one. There you in white. I mean, you're an intimidating guy, you know. And again, it's not. I don't think we've ever seen a running back that does the neck roll, the glasses, and then one more of you and Craig James together. Everybody remembers the Pony Express, but you guys physically looked different too.
Well, I mean, I think people think that I wore the glasses because I liked it. I hated them glasses, but I couldn't see. I mean, every time I have glasses, I'm blind. I mean, I had to have glasses. The neck roll was just like a look. I mean, I kind of like, because like the neck rolls normally come like this. straight down, but I
Yes.
had mine pulled out, you know, just a little
Yes.
fashion look.
Yes.
I had the towel on the side. You know, you look good, you play good. that was my motto. You know.
Well,
we had
Eric, there's one guy that probably agreed with you, Anita, if you will. Next up. Nope, not. Oh my gosh, look at that! Wait a minute. Oh, there you go. There's that guy right there.
You got a neck roll too?
Neck roll too. Mustache, Burt Reynolds, Tom Selleck. That's what we did back then.
You got it.
That's what we did back then. You said my neck roll was too tight. You flared yours.
Yeah, flared, man. You look a little tight. You look like stuff, didn't you?
So thinking back to 81, 82. We'll talk about recruiting a little bit later, but right now let's just get to 81. You come to Fayetteville, you and SMU hadn't won a conference championship forever. You guys go up there and beat us. Really good team. You both have, I think, 100 yards rushing. I think 32-18 was the final. First conference championship ever. Well, not ever, but in a long, long time.
Yeah. We knew that y'all had a very good football team. I mean, you were coached by Coach Lou Holtz, was a great coach at Arkansas. We knew one thing about Arkansas, y'all were very physical, and we were very physical. And, at that point, because, we had the best recruiting class coming in my freshman year. And so it took us a while to, kind of get going. I remember our freshman year, we went 5-6, and they kind of poked fun of us that year, in the conference because they thought we were supposed to be so good. And I'll never forget, it was a writer that wrote, laugh now because you won't laugh long, at this class. And sure enough, it was true. I mean, that year was one of our best football teams, even though we were on a soft probation, for allegedly, promising guys to sell their tickets and giving them tennis shoes. I mean, it was just such nonsense. I mean, it really was, because what happened is the year before we went up and beat Texas at my sophomore year, 20-6, and they were ranked number 2 in the nation. We weren't even ranked. And that kind of put the spotlight on us, and people didn't like the smaller schools beating the bigger schools. We played Arkansas that year, and it was a good game. It was a good game till about, I think, like the middle of the fourth quarter, and then we started kind of pounding on y'all and, just beat you up.
And you guys were conference champions that year. So go to 1982. We were talking last night at dinner. You remember that 82 team, if you guys remember, Lou Holtz coached it. We had Billy Ray Smith, two-time All-American, and Gary Anderson, I know you have a lot of respect for. Really talented team. We came in the number 8th team in the country. I think we were 8-1. You guys were 10-0. It was the first time, some of you may not know this, first time for SMU to be undefeated going into their last game, undefeated since 1947, going back, like you mentioned, to Doak Walker days. What do you remember about leading into that game? That game was going to be played there at Texas Stadium.
Well, I think one of the main things I remember about that football game is that I think our coaching staff was they were really afraid of y'all. We weren't, the players, but they were just uptight because, we won that national championship. We were 11-0. I think y'all were 10-1. I know we ended up 11-0-1 was our record. Great football. Y'all had a great football team. Really did. I have to give you respect. I mean, we knew it was going to be a tough game. Billy Ray Smith, great defensive player. Gary Anderson, man, when I say a great he was fun to watch, even for us. We liked watching him. And it was one of those games where it came down to, I think, y'all had to lead. We scored like with 2 or 3 minutes left in the game. They say it was a bad call.
We're going to talk about that.
It was a bad call, and all that. But I'll say this much here. If we would have had Ron Meyer as our head coach when we played y'all, remember that 38, the game the year before? It'd have been like that.
Ron Meyer had gone to New England.
He had gone to New England. We had Bobby Collins.
Bobby Collins from Southern Miss.
Nothing against Bobby, but they would not. We were winning on talent. We had so much talent. We were deep everywhere. And we were frustrated lots of times because I'm like, man, we're better than this. We shouldn't have these close football games. But with Arkansas, y'all were a very good football team. I have to give you credit.
Yeah, so we remember we were still thinking we had a shot to win the conference too. If we beat you guys,
you beat us, you won.
That's right. That's right. So I'll never get it. To me, I've always told this. It was the greatest game atmosphere I've ever been in because we walked in that time the old Cowboy Stadium with the hole in the roof, and it was split down the middle. We had 30-something thousand. SMU had 30-something thousand. We traveled so well. We had the number 1 defense in America with Billy Ray and all the guys that we had. You guys had the number 1 offense, and so when our defense would run on the field, your offense would, it was just electric in there. And so it was a battle. And I remember there's some great shots of Gary Anderson, who I think we all would agree. I would tell Coach Schultz, now maybe not, I would tell him in person, but he didn't take advantage of Gary Anderson like he should have. They really didn't use him as much. He made an unbelievable catch, unbelievable touchdown. And the game, we were up 17-10 with 4 minutes to go. How many remember? How many old enough to remember that game? So if you don't, so Eric, so here's the deal. When you win those kind of games, you don't worry about calls like this, but when you lose, you never forget. So I'm going to show, this is a clip from the game. We got a clip? So
You're really stuck on it.
So I am stuck on it. So this is Keith Jackson, not that Keith Jackson. This is the Whoa Nelly Keith Jackson on the call. My classmate Nathan Jones was the corner at the time. Andrew, who was the receiver? I mean, who was it? Jackie Wilson.
Jackie Wilson.
Jackie Wilson. All right, let's take a look and see what happened. Again, we're up 17-10. If we just hold them, we win the game. I think it's third down here. Let's take a look at this play. Listen.
You can't cut him off. He's not looking at the ball. That's not a bad cut. I don't care what they say. Well, he got to look back for the ball. He looking down the
Ward
field.
Simpson. So did you hear what Keith Jackson said? Look at Lou. Lou was so mad. I was ready to go out there on punt return on that play, but you guys get the call. You go down, you score the touchdown, but you decide to kick the extra point because you know if you tie, you still go.
We still go.
You still go.
But we were frustrated. Even the players, we said, let's go for two. Yeah. Let's go for two. Yeah. And the coaching staff wanted to go for one. I was like, I said, we all said, if it was run mile, we go for two. We go for the win. We go for the win.
But it was a great game. It was two really great teams.
Great game.
In 1982, we go on to, I think, play in the Gator Bowl against North Carolina. Is that right? Blue Bond, I'm sorry, against Florida, yeah.
Did y'all win?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, you guys go on to play Pittsburgh. Dan Marino shut them down, and you guys end up 11-0-1.
Yep, we went. We beat them 7-3. And what he said, AB said, it was freezing cold, icy day that day, and because they thought that because Dan Marino was, they would beat us because they were throwing football team. But one thing people didn't realize about our football team, our defense was very good, very aggressive, just like your team, but we were very dirty. We had a dirty defense. I mean, I said it, man. I'm like, even in practice, I'm like, come on, man, we on the same football team. Y'all doing this stuff to us. We had a dirty defense.
It's funny. Just to give you a little insight, and I'm going to ask Anita to go back to this picture in a second. So when we were getting ready to play, Eric, Don Lindsay was our defensive coordinator. I don't know how many remember. He was a great defensive coordinator. The thing about Eric Dickerson, he lined up really deep in the backfield. You were 7 yards deep. So I was a backup linebacker, and they had a play where I would go in and sort of take a gap. I was undersized, and I think whoever the offensive lineman was probably was laughing when I got up there. But what they told us was, whatever you do, don't leave your gap. For example, if I'm over here on the right side between the guard and the center over here, if you see Eric Dickerson go that way, wait. Because why?
Cut back, yeah.
I'll cut back. So that's why if you go to number 9, this play here, this is one of my favorites, is that you cut back, and that's the only one I got on you right there. I was hanging over.
You only know.
I was hanging over. How did you know? You said you were a senior. How did you know this?
I just knew my outfit. I can say one thing. I tell a lot of these young kids that go to college and they want to play their freshman year. They think they're ready to play. And I look at my involvement as a player. I can tell my uniform. I say I was a freshman there. That's how I can tell my uniform the way my uniform was. It wasn't cool like my senior year. And then I can say that's my sophomore year. How I can tell the way my body looked. My junior year I can tell because one thing is I still had the helmet with the thing down the middle. My senior year they had a prototype helmet that pretty much all the players wear in the NFL now. It has the bars on the side. And it was a prototype, and I just felt, I won't forget it was times I said, I feel like a man playing with kids. because I was so athletic, I was so big, I was so fast, and I was more developed. And I tell the young kids, I said, take your time. I said, you think you're ready to play in college. I said, but you're not. You're not. I said, just give it some time. I said, and you'll see the difference how you evolve into a player. When I look at myself there, I said, I just felt like a man out there then.
Yeah, you were. I was so honored to be able to play against so many great running backs, including you and Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson was very unique. Obviously, yeah, he was just a burner and 220. You were 6'3". You don't see many guys your height at 220 that have your strength and speed. You were a unique combination. What happens there as a defensive player, you know, if you make one mistake, you make one error, you're going to make us pay for it in scoring big plays.
Yeah, well, you know, and that's the deal, because a lot of times, you know, for me, I won't forget when I got into the National Football League, and we played the Detroit Lions, and I came on the field. I ran, you know, you run the field and you're running by the players. And it was a defensive back. He said, damn, that's a running back? I like a linebacker. You know, because I was 6'3", we had the big pads and stuff. And, you know, and they didn't want to tackle you. After a while, it was funny because you hear guys up, the DBs in the secondary, hey, man, y'all stop him up there. Don't let him get back here on us. You know, it's not our job to make these tackles. So that's the funny part about playing football.
I did want to go back, because I referenced it earlier. I think one of the fascinating things about you, everybody's seen the 30 for 30 about the SMU days. And, you know, when I was playing, we'd heard about all the things, you know, hey, you know, they're paying at SMU and all that. And so your book, you've come out and revealed some things about what was happening at SMU. I think the funniest thing you said was, yeah, you got paid, but you didn't get paid enough, right?
No, I mean, I can tell you. I mean, I'll tell you. I mean, I got $500 a month. I mean, a lot of guys got some money, but it wasn't anything life-changing. And you got to understand, you know, my mom, my dad had passed away. I was adopted. My dad had passed away when I was a junior, and my mom was a housekeeper, so we didn't have a lot of money. So a lot of money I was sent back home to try to help her. I mean, it wasn't like we were getting rich. And the thing people don't realize is, because you get some money or a car, you think that's going to make you play harder? No, it doesn't. You're going to play hard no matter what. We played hard. And the thing is, everybody was doing it. I knew the guys from Texas that was getting stuff, A&M, Arkansas. I mean, everybody. And you know, this is the killing part of it. Is like, oh, no, we don't do that. We don't have to do that. Yeah, you do. Yeah. Man, it was some guys from Alabama. They told me they did it. I'm like, oh, no, that was slick. So Alabama was doing it. Like, the casinos, I think it was in Mississippi, the casinos right over the border. So let's say grandma or mom would go over to the casino, and they would tell them, hey, we got a slot machine for you to play, you know, gamble. Lo and behold, grandma won $75,000. Who knew? I gotta say, that was slick down there. I like that one. So yeah. So like I said, everybody was doing it.
Well, I do love the fact, and
even y'all know. Even y'all think that's slick, isn't it? Hey, that's a slick one.
We do now.
Got a casino around here?
Yes, we do. So I do think it's interesting because A&M, so apparently offered your adopted mother, which was a wonderful woman, Viola. Right. They brought a case of $50,000 cash, and she declined that because she wanted you to go where you wanted to go. But you did end up getting the what they call the trans A&M. A&M gave you a car, but your mom had to sign for it. But somebody took care of it. But that was a big thing for a long time. It was a picture in the paper. What do you recall about that whole experience?
Well, I won't forget. I would go down to. We had a old beat up truck that one of my cousins had. I would drive, and I would go to Houston. It was called Leo Jonigan's Pontiac, and I'd go there and look at this Trans Am. I'm like, man, I go there and play. I'm like, man, look at this car. I just stand outside and look at it. And you know, and my mom knew I liked the car, and some A&M boosters heard I liked the car. So I won't forget. I think it was one Friday evening. She said, Eric, well, we're gonna go down to Houston to Leo Jonigan and look at that Trans Am. I'm like, really? So your grandmother's gonna meet us out of Houston. My grandfather lived in Houston. I said, okay. So we go down and look at it, and man, they said they gave me the keys, go drive it around. And it was 3 white guys. I don't know who they were. 3 white guys there. And so I drove the car, came back, and my mom said, all right. She said, take it, it's yours. You know, I'm like, huh? She said, take it, it's yours. I would never forget that. And I'm like, my car? Matter of fact, and I don't know how, this just shows you how this happens. That I think it was 2 days later, I'm driving the car. I met a restaurant there in Sealy, and they took a picture of me.
I think my mic here. I think it's number 10. I think, Anita. I think this is the picture that went.
That's it.
This
That's
is
it.
the picture that was
That's
in the
it.
Houston Chronicle.
Right.
That is a gold.
That's
You
the
can't
gold-
miss that gold
that's
Trans
the
Am,
gold
and that's
Trans-
you coming out right
That's
there.
it. My cousin, little Harold Jackson. We came out of a restaurant, and I mean that was big news. And I won't never forget because I think the next day or 2 days later, NCAA was at my high school. They were at my high school. The guy came. I won't forget. I was in Mr. Boyle's class in lab, and he came out and said, guy came, knocked on the door, and he went to the door. He said, "Eric, the guy wants to talk to you out here." So I walked out. The guy came, was a black guy, and he said, "I'm from the NCAA. I need to talk to you about your car." I said, "Well, you need to talk to my mother." He said, "Okay, well, can you give me a call or give me an address?" So I called home. My mama said, I would have him to come over. Went to our house. I got there. He was still there talking about the Trans Am. And I got to say, I'll make the long story short. This man was at our house every day for over maybe 2 months. Every day, even on Sundays sometimes. He was there so much, he would have dinner with us. He came. And then finally, because then he'd go talk to my grandmother in Houston and my grandfather. See, people didn't realize my grandfather and grandmother, my grandfather was a crane operator. And they could afford a new car. You know, they got a new car pretty much every couple of years, a Cadillac. That's the black man's Mercedes back in the day. So he talks to my grandparents, and I won't forget, one day I didn't see him anymore. And I said, "Mom," I said, "what happened to that man?" He said, "Your grandmother told that man, if I see you or anybody else from the NCAA ever again, I'm going to see you personally, and I'm going to sue the NCAA. She said, I've showed you all the records on this car. You know, this car's paid for." Because what happened, I can tell you the story now. You know, it's been 50 years. So when I looked at the car, A&M, my grandmother wrote a check for the car. They wrote the check for the car and paid for the car legally. And what it ended, they gave them the money back in cash. So that's why and I didn't end up going there. I went to.
You kept the car. You kept the car.
Yeah. So they couldn't go say, "Hey, we bought that car."
Yeah.
You know?
So I want to get this straight. You kept the car. You go to SMU. You give that car to somebody else, and you get another car.
I get it. Who said that?
That's what I heard.
A Corvette showed up. I don't know how I got it. A Corvette showed up. Yeah, I had a Corvette. I gave the car to my best friend.
So is it amazing to you, Eric, now that I've seen some deals? I think who's the quarterback at Ole Miss? What's his name? Yeah, Jackson Dart has a deal with a Lear Jet Company, and I've seen some of the players have Lamborghinis. Is it amazing to you to realize that what's happening now versus sort of what you guys went through back in that?
Yeah, it is. You know, I think the sad part is that they made an example out of our school. You know, because they would have never did that to Texas. They'd have never did it to Ohio State, Alabama. They wouldn't have done that. They just wouldn't have. I mean, they'd have put them on some kind of probation no matter what they were doing. But we were a smaller school. And I got to say, in a sense, we were kind of arrogant. I mean, the alumni were, the boosters were, in a way, because I won't forget, it was they had a poster that they had in the Southwest Conference. They had it was like on number one, they had a SMU pony sitting on top of a poster with a SMU outfit on it. All the other teams, Arkansas, Texas, and they had the glass and they're looking down at them like this. I mean, and that was circulating around town. I mean, it was funny. But yes, it is amazing. But I'm like this here. I've always felt like these kids deserve it because, a lot of kids that play college football, basketball, baseball, even the girls, you're not going to play professional sports. It's not going to happen. You beat your body up so much you get an education, you get free meals, but we're making you billions of dollars. So I've always felt the kids should get something for it, and I'm always for it. I just feel like the thing I don't like about it is when kids jump from school to school. If you're gonna sign with a school and you're gonna take their money, if you're gonna leave, give the money back, and you go get the money from another school. That's my only problem with it.
You number 2 overall pick after John Elway. Go to the Rams.
Can you do me a favor? Can you turn this fan off? I'm like, can you turn that fan off? Man, I'm over here shaking. I'm cold.
Well, because I'm fat and I got sweat, so that's why I apologize.
I'm getting chills. I'm gonna be talking like this in a minute.
You're the only person that's complaining. More motivation for me to lose weight. I know. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay. No problem.
So you get drafted right after Elway. You were number 2. You go to the Rams, and I think it's fascinating that you from Sealy, Texas. You know what Sealy, Texas? What was in Sealy? What is Sealy, Texas known for? Mattresses, the Sealy mattress. Yeah. So small town in Texas. Mm-hmm. You go out to LA and you fit in, man. You make it work.
Well, I'll say this much. I will never forget my mother when I left to go to LA to play for the Rams. She said, because I said my dad was the best man I ever knew. My adopted dad. I mean, when I said good man, I mean I said this last night. I think I said it to you too. If my dad can't get into heaven, I have no shot. No shot. I mean, he was a true Christian.
Yeah,
man.
you would be practicing, and he'd be up in the stands with his Bible.
Reading his Bible. I mean, that was his big thing. Put God first. So when I went to LA, my mother said, "Look, don't go out to California and ruin your dad's good name." And that was big for me. I mean, so I went out, and my thing is I just want to play football. I want to play football. I loved it. I didn't think people really even know who I was. That was I said my thing is I'm going to make people know how good I really am, show them how good I really am. And that was me, and I put all the work into playing football.
And at that time, you had the Lakers. Oh my gosh, you showed up with Magic. Magic Johnson knew who you were and had courtside seats at the Forum.
Well, yeah, I won't forget my first experience of going to a Laker game. Our doctor was their doctor, the same team doctor. And Dr. Curlin said, "You want to go to a basketball game?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I didn't know. And the guy said, "You going to Dr. Curlin?" Man, he said, "On the floor." I'm like, "The floor?" "Yeah, like the floor." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I get to the game, and the Magic comes over, and Kareem, and I'm like, wow, I mean, this is like crazy. Everybody comes over, and they say my name. I don't like that kind of stuff. They say my name, I get a standing ovation. I'm so embarrassed, man. I'm so embarrassed. But it was a great experience. I mean, if you've never been to LA, and especially back in those days, it was true Hollywood. It still is, but I mean, back then the Lakers were Showtime Lakers. I mean, it was big time.
Yeah, you go out there, and I don't know if you guys know this, 3 of the records that you have that nobody's broken have been 40 years. One of them was your rookie year, had 1,808 yards, I think, rushing, so you immediately go on the scene, and that's one of the ones you're most proud of because you get one shot at doing it. And I'm not sure anybody will ever do that because what that has to happen, to get 1,800 yards, you have to make the running back be the focus of the offense, and that's something for a rookie.
I don't think it'll happen again because John Robinson, kind of did it with me, and I didn't even realize that was going to happen. I wasn't even starting, and I was like the second and third team, and then all of a sudden, we played the Redskins in a preseason game, and they killed us. And then John Riggins was there running back, and they run a one-back set, and we came in that next day. He said, "Eric," he said to the team, he said, "We're going to change the offense around. We'll go to the one-back set." He said, "Eric, you're my back." I'm like, okay, and that's how I kind of, got to that position. And I started off kind of slow, I was nervous. I think as you gentlemen in here, a lot of guys say, "Man, I could play football, man, if I didn't hurt my knee or if I didn't get married." I'm like, let me tell you something, partner. They hitting out there. I said, your ass can't play no pro football. Because I will never forget and I keep getting us attest to this, man, when you get out there, that stuff is so freaking fast. You like, oh my God, this is not for me. I won't forget, we in practice one of my first times, and John Robinson said, when the veterans show up, it's gonna be different. I'm like, ain't gonna be no different. Well, sure enough, we showed up. We had a pass called pass protection where you had to pick up the blitzing linebacker and know where they are. And Jackie Slater and Gary Jeter, they were going at it. It was like, and I'm standing back there with a guy named Otis Grant from Michigan State, and I said, "Damn, Otis!" I said, "Man, I can't do that, brother." He said, "That's fast." And I said, "Yep." So Eric, get in. I'm like, damn. I got in. And in the NFL, people are moving all the time, linebackers. It's not like college, now they do probably now, but your assignment may be here, but before the ball snap, it may be over here. So sure enough, they moved around and they snapped the ball, and the guy rushed and touched the quarterback, and they said, "Eric, who's your guy?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Get your ass out." He said, "Get out till you know what you're doing. You get somebody hurt." And that's how it is. Because it happens so fast.
You come back. If that wasn't enough, you come back year 2. You break O.J. Simpson's record, which, ladies and gentlemen, to this day, nobody has broken. They've come close, but probably now because the game is such a passing game, it will never be broken. What was it like? And I'm sure you'd been around O.J. You had a chance to be around O.J. at that time. What was that whole year like to pass O.J. Simpson?
Well, first of all, O.J. was my favorite football player. That's why I played running back, because of him. As a matter of fact, I got recruited by USC. That was my first time I'd ever flown on a plane. Went to Southern California on a flight, and met O.J. They were playing the Rose Bowl game. He was there that week, and they were doing some commentary. And I walked over to him and I said, "How you doing, Mr. Simpson?" He said, "How you doing, young man?" I said, "Fine." He said, "I'm Eric Dickerson." I said, "To recruit you?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "What position?" I said, "Running back. Are you my favorite player?" He said, "Yeah." He said, how'd you do in high school?" I said, 2,600 yards rushing and 50 touchdowns. He said, "Wow." I said, one day I want to break your record. He said, "Well, good luck with that." Yeah, good luck with that. And I mean, who knows? I just want to say something. Yeah, say something. And I did. I mean, I really wanted that record at 2,000 yards. And you know, the thing is, you'd be surprised. Your team wants it too. My offensive linemen wanted it, man. They wanted it bad. And, you know, we set that record. I'll never forget when we said it. We played the Houston Oilers that day when I actually set the record over 2,000 yards and had another week to play. And O.J. did it in 14. I did it in 15. I always say that. Matter of fact, and you know, you don't get a chance to call a play. And so, you know, it's late in the game, and we're beating Houston, and Jeff Kemp leans down and said, "What play you want?" I said, 47 gap. I said, 47 gap it is on one. I picked up 9 yards, and that's when I set the record.
Did you call O.J.? Or O.J. called? Yeah, they're worth a round of applause. Yeah, did you remind him about saying that?
I remind he didn't remember. He said, "I don't remember that." I knew he would. It was high school, but you know, like I said, you know, every player, every person has their favorite players, and I always say you have players because of who you saw play. Like a lot of the kids never saw me play. Like the young man here playing running back, he never saw me play. He can look at the highlights, but you see guys that you see right now that play that position. That's how you become a fan, and that's how I became a fan of O.J.'s.
Yeah, and then the last thing I was going to say, you have the record for most yards in a playoff game, 248 yards, 1985. Anybody remember who it was against? Dallas Cowboys. You hate them?
Oh, I hate the Cowboys.
You remember that game?
I know it's a bunch of Cowboy fans that hate their asses, man. Oh, you know why I hate the Cowboys? First of all, I can't understand that America's team, because I couldn't stand that crap. America's team crap. And then when I got drafted, it was when I was getting drafted, we scrimmaged the Cowboys in Anaheim. Just a scrimmage. And I won't forget John Robinson 10 minutes later. Man, I was so nervous. I mean, I was in my stance. I was in my stance like this, shaking. I was so nervous. And so I'm on the field, and I couldn't remember the plays. I just went blank. Vince would call a play, and I said, "What do I do, Vince?" He said, "Eric, you're getting the ball. What you mean?" I said, "Which side?" He said, "On this side." So he called another play. I said, "What did I say, Eric? You got to block the line." I said, "Man, I got to leave the field." So I left the field. And I went to my coach, Bruce Snyder, and he was like, "Eric, settle down." I mean, when I say couldn't remember nothing, I couldn't remember no plays. He said, "Settle down." So they started calling plays. They started coming back to him. I'm like, "Okay." So now go back in. I had a really good game in the game. And Tom Landry told John Robinson, he said, "I think you made a mistake drafting him." Is that what he said? He said he's too tall. He's not going to last long. And he said, "I don't think he looks fast. I don't know if he's that fast." And then
you remember that?
Oh, I remember that. And after the scrimmage, John Robinson told me, and then he came. He said that Tom Landry said to him, "I might be wrong. He might be all right."
Last couple of things we'll wrap up. You know, after that game, you remember who they played after that game? Had to play the Bears in 1985. Remember that guy right up there? It was, and that was a tough. But one of the things we sort of talked about last night. Nothing against, you know, the quarterbacks, but you didn't. Your quarterback was. What's his name?
Dieter Brock.
What is it?
Dieter Brock. You never heard of him.
Dieter Brock. Have anybody heard of Dieter Brock?
No.
Yeah.
No.
So, but what I'm saying is, you didn't have a whole lot of supporting cast as far as, you know, everybody sort of knew what was going to happen there, right?
Well, it's funny because, you know, one of my good friends is Richard Dent, and Dent said in the meetings, he said, "Man, we didn't worry about nobody else." He said, "They said, do not let 29 beat us." He said that was our thing. They had 8 men on the line of scrimmage. I mean, they had the safeties were right, the linebackers are right here, the safeties was right there. I mean, you know how frustrating that is walking to the line of the league? I'm like, damn, the safety's supposed to be way back there.
They knew what was coming, didn't they?
They knew what was coming. Yeah, it was frustrating. It was a frustrating day, but you know, that was a great football team. Yeah.
Last thing, you know, we've had a theme of the last 3 weeks with Brett Favre, Ray Lewis and now with Eric Dickerson. And I think we want to end on this. If we could go, Anita, to picture number 14. I want to make sure I have the right picture here. If this is the woman, I believe, who raised you. Is that right?
Yep. Viola Dickerson.
That is Viola. So,
right.
So tell us about what a difference she made, because if not for her, where you would be today.
My mother had me when she was 16 years old. She got pregnant with me. I won't forget, she said, first time I had sex, I get pregnant with you. and she had raised my mother too, because her mom was really my real grandmother, not her, my real grandmother. And she let Viola raise my mother Helen also, because she had 3 sons. My grandmother did. And I gotta say, it was life changing for me, because for a child, you just never know how you're gonna turn out. You turn out pretty much like your environment, how you're taught. Like, I was always taught to respect people, especially older people. Respect people, yes ma'am and no ma'am. My dad, like I say, was the best man I knew. Sports was fine, but he was all about God. All about his being a Christian and praising God. And my mother was, she was a hardworking woman. And my thing was, for my parents, I always wanted, and I'll just say it just like this, what I just told people. I say, I want my mom to have what the white people have. Because we grew up in a shotgun house. We didn't have anything. I want to have a nice house. My friends I went to the school with white guys, and for my best friends. And I won't forget this guy named Kevin Kubrick. And they had a nice brick home. And I went to his house. I'm like, man, I want my mom to have a house like this. I'm going to build a house like this. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I had no clue. But that was the first big purchase that I did. I built her, and I still have the house. She's passed away, but I built that house. And, my dad died in 1977, and I can tell you this, that it's sometimes, still to this day, it's funny, I start talking about him and I get emotional because I miss him that much still. That's what he meant to me. My mother died almost 24 years ago. And I know, I always say, it's how you raise a kid. I know I was raised right. I respect people. I don't think I'm better than anybody. This so-called fame, the Eric Dickerson, all the people know me. That don't mean nothing to me. That's not me. I'm just a country boy from Sealy, Texas. I love that. I love my university, Southern Methodist University. I'm glad I think my mother made that decision. Let me tell you something. I want to go to Oklahoma. That's why I want to go to Oklahoma. And so my mother was like, Barry Switzer and them came to my house, and they, talked. They had a good talk, man, real good talk. My mother said, when they walked out, she said, that man is a liar. She said, that man's a liar and I don't trust him. Say, you ain't going to Oklahoma? I'm like, Mama, nope. She said, nope, you ain't going there. I was mad, but I couldn't say it. I was mad. I'm like, man, I don't want to go to Oklahoma. So she said, son, look, first of all, you ain't gonna live in no damn Oklahoma. She said, you ain't gonna live there. You're a Texas boy. Stay in the state of Texas. And so I thank my mom for making that decision for me to stay in the state of Texas and go to SMU, and also for playing in the National Football League, because I got drafted by the USFL. And I asked her the question, where should I go? She said, which one's been around longer? I said, the NFL. She said, I'd go there. And she hated football. She said, but she wanted me to go to the NFL.
Last one, you bring it up. You also didn't want to go to A&M. What were the reasons you didn't want to go to A&M?
Is some Aggies in here?
I don't
some
think
Aggies.
so.
No Aggies in here?
You're in a supportive crowd here.
Man, ain't no problem. I didn't want to go to A&M. First of all, when I went to a visit, and I'm like, okay, where the cheerleaders at? Well, we got Yale leaders. I'm like, Yale leaders? I'm like, what's a Yale leader? I said, boys? I'm like, oh, no. I said, no, dog. I didn't tell them that. My mom, I'm like, oh, I'm not going here. They got a bunch of boys here. Yeah, oh, where the girls at? So then I saw them ugly-ass uniforms. I'm like, man, these some ugly-ass uniforms. I said, my man, ugly-ass uniforms. And I just couldn't go. I couldn't do it.
We do have to say, too, Rhett Lashley is an Arkansan. We really love Rhett. I know that you want the program to do well, too, and building back from what happened in the 80s.
Man, Rhett has been a great asset to SMU. I text him pretty much before or after every game, win, lose, or draw. But he's done a great job there at SMU. I think the big thing is when I think about college football or high school football, I'll say this much here. I think about Arkansas, y'all, the Razorbacks. Y'all support your football team. You support them. You support them in the school. You want them to do well. That's why we were missing. We missed that for 40 years, you know, after the death penalty and, you know, the school kind of backed off of football. And they got angry at me because, you know, think about it, as a young player, you go to a university, do you want to get beat 50-0? You know, Houston beat SMU one time 95-6. And I was so frustrated, I said, hey, why don't you just get rid of it? Just get rid of football and do something else, because I said it's embarrassing. And they were kind of mad, but I was just telling the truth, because you know, we had so much pride in our school. I mean, I'm sure you Razorbacks, y'all have pride in y'all school. You're prideful. You don't want to get beat 95-0. You'd be pissed. So I was mad and pissed about it. But now with Red has brought a new way of thinking. The athletes they have. Like when I went to a practice, I'm like, okay, now these look like some real athletes. I mean, because I went out there at one point. We played Baylor. I'm like, okay, who's the high school team? Our team like a little high school team, and this team like a pro team. So that's the difference. When you get to athletes, you can't win without the athletes. I mean, at one point, because I told on the radio, I was on a radio show, we're talking about SMU, and I said you could take Brett Saban over to SMU. You could take whoever, the greatest coach ever. You can't win with these athletes. You've got to have the players. And so Red has done a great job recruiting, and they're doing a lot better job at SMU, so I'm proud of them.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the best to ever play the game of football. Let's give it up for Eric Dickerson, everybody. Thanks, Eric. Great job.
Thank you.
Hunter, your check up next.
Killed it. Great job, man.
That was awesome.
Check.